on our fifth member to arrive. He just texted me. He'll be here in just a moment. But before I do that, I'll go over some preliminary announcements. I know probably all of us are operating on very little sleep from last night, but the board would appreciate it if you'll silence your phones. It'll probably go off again for flash flood warnings, but we'd appreciate it. The board will cover all cases set on today's public hearing agendas, and the procedure will be for the Codes Department to go first. I'll show on the screen here by means of a PowerPoint presentation any photographs our office has taken, plans submitted by the applicant, and then if there's, I forgot my clock, I'll set that up. But if you have a case today and there is no opposition present, to your right in front of Ms. Davis's sign will be a clock that will have 5 minutes for you to present your testimony to the board. The clock stops for any questions from the board and your answers to those questions. And then it'll restart once you begin testimony. If there's a case here today that has opposition, each side of a case will be presented 10 minutes to present their testimony to the board. So the applicant will come first. After my presentation, the applicant will come first to the table in front here. There are 4 seats. Feel free to use whichever one you'd like. Just to the right of the microphone stand where the microphone hits the little desk, there's a button there. Push that one time. And your microphone will turn red like mine is here. And you identify yourself and make your presentation to the board. After the applicant goes first, any parties in opposition to a case will come second. The opposition as a group gets 10 minutes to present. That's not 10 minutes per speaker, but 10 minutes per group. And then the applicant, if they wish to have saved any time, will use the remainder of their time to rebut testimony provided by the applicant. The board's vested to act on all cases before it today is outlined in section 1740-180 of the Metro Code of Law. The board requires that there be 4 members to constitute a quorum, and you'll have to have 4 affirmative votes to grant your application. Currently, I've got 4 members here, so we do have a quorum. 5th member will be here in just a moment. Again, a reminder, you'll need 4 of the 5 members present to vote in favor of your case for it to be approved. There's our alarms again. The board will go through all cases set for public hearing. The board, in its rules, does allow elected officials to address the board if they wish to prior to the public hearings today. I do see, Councilmember, I see you on the front row. If you'd like to come forward and wherever you'd like, at the lectern or at the table.
We're going to try this and not break it. I've been in a few meetings in here and have seen the technology fail, so try not to mess up your meeting. I'm Jordan Huffman. I'm the council member for District 14. That encompasses Donaldson and Hermitage. I'm here on behalf of case 25-025, which is Wags and Walks. They are requesting an exemption to allow for essentially a walking area for the dogs that are in their custody. I want to speak just first on the benefit that Wags and Walks adds to our community and all surrounding communities. In this time where we really need more good in the world, Wags and Walks is doing it. It's a great animal rescue that services a lot of lonely individuals in the community. I myself have 2 aging dogs. Both are 14 years old. When they're both very reliant on each other. As soon as one of those dogs passes, I can tell you I'm going to go right down and visit Wags and Walks, because simply the care that they take of those dogs is just second to none. So the community is lucky to have them, and we would definitely ask for your support in this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman Huffman. Are there any other council members present today? I didn't see any others. Okay. Seeing none, the first step today will be go through the board's consent agenda. The board has a consent agenda, and what that means is that prior to today's meeting, the chairman reviews all the cases on public hearing today. and if, in his opinion, the case meets the criteria for the application that they've requested, he recommends that case to the other members of the board for consent. I'll call out those cases recommended for the consent agenda at this time, and if you're here in opposition to one of the cases that I call, if you'll raise your hands, please, what we'll do is pull that from the consent agenda, and then we'll hear it in the order that it's printed here on the agenda. So the first case recommended for consent agenda is case 2025-25. That's on page 3 of our agenda. That is the Wags and Walks kennel at 103B Bonnebrook Drive, requesting a special exception to allow the use of that property for dog park. Are there any parties present in opposition to case 25? Mr. Chairman, let the record reflect, seeing no opposition present. The next case recommended for consent is case 2025-26. Mr. Corey Wurst at 4027 Utah Avenue, requesting a special exception in RS 7.5 to construct an accessory building. We have received Plan Commission recommendation. Are there any parties present opposed to case 26 at 4027 Utah Avenue? Mr. Chairman, seeing none. The next case recommended for consent is case 2025-27. Mr. Taylor Phillips Builders, the owner of the property, is at 6300 A and B American Court, requesting variance in street setback requirements in the RS 10 district. Chairman felt that the floodplain necessitated the hardship in this case. Are there any parties present opposed to case 2025-27 on American Court? Mr. Chairman, seeing none. And then finally, last case recommended for consent, case 2025-29 Park Center. It's the appellant at 1095 Gwynn Drive, requesting special exceptions in the height and step back requirements in OR 20 to build a multifamily residence building with office space. Are there any parties in opposition present to case 29 at 1095 Gwynn? Okay, Mr. Chairman, seeing none. Just recapping, those 4 cases are your consent agenda. Cases 25, 26, 27, and 29.
So moved.
What that means, if you are here for cases 25, 26, 27, and 29, your cases have been approved. You are free to go. Please be sure to follow up with the Codes Department beginning Monday next week regarding your permits. Okay, members, we have our full complement today. I'm going to take one item slightly out of order. We have case, this is not a public hearing. The public hearing is closed at the top of page 2, case 2025-007. Arian Goda is the appellant, Nashville Quality Homes, 1818 Ashton Avenue. They were requesting a variance in the side setback requirements. This board heard public hearing testimony on February the 6th. At that time, the case was deferred until March the 6th, and at the March 6th hearing, there was a motion to approve to approve the case, and the vote tied on a 3-1 vote in favor. Those voting in the affirmative were Mr. Bradford, Ms. Carpenter, Ms. Johnson, Ms. Davis voted against, and there were 3 members who did not hear testimony on 2-6. Mr. Ransom is not present today, so he will be out of consideration, but I'll start with you, Mr. Chairman. Have you reviewed the case testimony in this, and if so, do you wish to participate?
Yes.
Okay, and what will your vote be, sir?
My vote will be to approve, but I want to explain because I think it was a close case, and I think that this building was already going to be built very close to the neighbor, and I think the contractor should have been paying very close attention to it. It appears that the contractor relied on a subcontractor who poured footings or started putting down block before there was any verification that that there was no setback violation. The contractor testified that they didn't know about it until they received the as-built. I think that was a serious mistake. But the choice we have is we either approve it. If we don't approve it, it's going to be probably, in my estimation, $100,000 or $200,000 penalty to the contractor, because I think you'd have to basically tear the building down. So between those choices, I vote to approve, because I think it would just be too draconian to require to not approve it. But I think that the contractor made a mistake here, and my choice is either, there's no middle ground. It's either approve it or don't approve it, and it gets torn down. So I will vote to approve it. And I will also say that the fact that it was 6 inches was also bore on the decision. I think if it had been more than that, it might have not gone the same way that it's going right now for me. So.
All right, Mr. Chairman. And finally, Mr. Cole, same questions for you. Did you review the case in this? And if so, do you wish to participate in this case?
I will not participate.
Okay. Mr. Cole being marked as not participating. With Mr. Pepper's vote, the case 2025-007 has been approved by the board on a vote of 4-1, and an appropriate order will be entered and sent to the appellants in this case. Okay, Mr. Chairman, that's case 7's approved. All right, we've dealt with our consent agenda. And one preliminary announcement on our published agenda today on the second page, case 2025-17, the St. Mary Coptic Orthodox Church of Nashville. That case has been deferred to the May 1st BZA hearing. That's our case in 2 weeks, or 2 meetings from now, to May 1st. I think that's right. And we'll begin with our first case today, and that is on the front of the agenda. This first case, and just kind of recap for the folks remaining in the room, I'll go through my slides first and provide why you're in front of the board, and then you can come up first and put on your case. I apologize. I normally have a clock sitting over there, but in my uber tiredness, I didn't. So I will keep track here and let you know on my iPhone that you'll have 10 minutes if there's opposition, 5 if there is not opposition, and I'll give you a warning at 2 minutes and then at 1 minute. Before I begin my portions, are there any parties present who are in opposition to case 2025-004, Mr. Hernandez's case at 210 Bart Drive? Are there any parties present? All right, seeing none. Mr. Hernandez, if you'd like to come forward, I'll show my slides first, and then I'll pass it over to you, and you'll have 5 minutes to present your case to the board. Members, Mr. Hernandez was nice enough to bring a friend to translate for them today. I do have a staff member who volunteered, but glad you were here, sir. In just a moment, well, I'll turn it over to you guys and let you introduce you all at the table. But the first, looking at the nature of the request today, deal with additions that Mr. Hernandez has put on without a permit in the area in violation of the code. Is, get my laser pointer here, is this structure here. So this structure that I'm currently circling is the portion of the additions that are in violation of the code.
What are the setback requirements, and what is the?
Yeah, the setback requirements for these, there's a 20-foot rear setback required from along the property line, which is the narrowest end. So in this particular case, these houses that are oriented sort of to the middle, you'll note on his site plan, he's showing a 20-foot setback here along this northern boundary. Along this property line would be a 5-foot setback. He appears on the drawings submitted by the applicant. And I will pull up the original of this so we can give you some better dimensions to read in here.
So that dotted line, that is the setback line for
that? Yes, sir. Okay. It appears to scale out to be the setback line. The other issue is this structure here. This structure, although under 100 square feet and not subject to a permit, it is still subject to comply with the setback provisions. Here on a building of this size, it's actually 3 feet required. and it appears that it's sitting approximately about the same distance as this, but I'll go through some slides for you. These is an aerial photograph dated in March of 2022, and I'll zoom in just for a moment to give you a better view of the area. You see Mr. Hernandez's home and additions here, swimming pool, which you saw in the drawing. And what has occurred is this area of the concrete driveway area has been covered. I believe this structure got relocated back over here. And then this is an aerial photograph of the same dated March 10th of 2024. So the construction occurred sometime between 2022 and 2024. I did look at the 2023 aerial. It looked the same as the 2022 picture. So we believe that construction occurred sometime between March of 2023 and March of 2024. This is a view of Mr. Hernandez's home upon my visit there March 13th. And the structure you see in question is this structure as viewed from the street. His home sits atop, sort of a hilltop there. The rest of his front yard, as you see in the photographs, is a little bit sloped toward the street. And again, I'll pull up the survey that the applicant provided to give you clearer images of his thing. But while I'm doing that, I will now turn it over to the folks at the table. And if you would, please, sir, if you'll identify yourself and name and address for all the parties present, and then present your case to the board.
If you'll hit a button there, it'll turn red, please, sir.
Just to the right.
There you go.
So my name is Edgar. I live on 49.
Can we have your last name too, please?
Oh, Mitsnawa. Do you need me to spell it out?
Pardon me?
Do you need me to spell out the last name? Just
you just say
Mitsnawa. Mitsnawa is the last name. I live on 4939 Olivia Drive. Yasmani is one of my neighbors, and he's a good friend of mine, so I'm here just helping to translate and, try to help him get his case across for you guys to understand.
Oh, my name is Yasmani Hernandez. 210 Ball Drive, Anion, Tennessee 37013.
My name is Mariam Torres. La dirección. You live 210 Bar Drive, Antioch, Tennessee 37013.
So the structure in question and the associated stuff, Yasmani was unaware that he needed to pull a permit, and he's very sorry about that. He went through the proper channels to pull the rest of those permits. The structure is, I think they're calling it like a carport, but he uses it more for for family and friends. It's a covered patio, and he likes being outside, cooking, grilling, and stuff like that, and have family and friends over. So that's part of the reason why he built that structure in the back. ¿Algo más que quiera agregar? Oh, that pool has also been removed. I think that was not in compliance, so he removed that.
What did he remove? I'm sorry.
Roughly about 2 months ago, the pool was removed.
What did he remove?
The pool, the pool that's if you can point to it, sir.
All right. I don't think the pool was in violation.
Well, according to the codes department, he needed. I think it wasn't allowed, so he had to remove it. So he went ahead and removed it. And then that small shed that's on the side, he's also stating that if that needs to be relocated, he can, or entirely remove it to comply. Yeah, and just also for the record, he has obtained the necessary permits for the additions that were made, that were in code violation. He's gone through the proper channels to obtain those, building permits.
Well, for what violations?
For that addition that they did in the back. So that's why I think it's also part of, doing the case for the variance.
Mr.
I
Chairman,
don't think he's obtained code approval because he wouldn't be here.
they were cited for failure to obtain a building permit when those two additions that I'm pointing at here were constructed. It looks like 2019 and 2021. Mr. Hernandez I believe he's applied and obtained the permits for these, and we issued based on their compliance with the setback, but we couldn't issue this structure because it was in violation.
Yes, sir. And I think, is there a certain square footage that it needs to be under for that covered patio?
The size is not an issue. You're not running afoul of that, but it's the location. Because it's attached to the home, it's considered part of the home, so it has to be 20 feet off of this line here and 5 feet off of this line here.
Understood. If it was necessary to detach that patio structure from the home, would that alleviate any of the setbacks that are required?
If this, and I don't know this, do you know the size of that structure on its own?
He's around 900 square feet of the covered patio.
Those setbacks listed here are what's required for a structure, freestanding structure that size. So 20 feet from this line, and then 5 feet from this line.
Yeah. Okay. And also, they reached out to local, I think it was Piedmont Stormwater, who had a couple, I think they have an easement back there, and all of them stated they had no issue with that bearing on there. He's got the emails from them. He also reached out to the council member to apologize for what he had done without knowing, and the council member had stated that he had no vote in this, but that he was hoping that this would be, he would be treated fairly.
Why did he not go get permits for these multiple builds over a series of years, apparently?
¿Cuál es la razón por que usted no sacó los permisos de las otras estructuras de las ediciones de primera?
En ese momento no sabíamos como que necesitaban permiso.
Es que lo hicimos como a los 2 años de mudarnos para casa, como la familia creció y que no teníamos conocimiento.
No tenía en ese momento tanto conocimiento como que necesitaba permiso.
So this was his first home that he bought, first time home buyers, and they had a couple of kids while they had moved in there. So 2 years later, they did the addition, not knowing that they needed those like they needed to pull building permits to do so. That's why they had done that. But again, when codes brought it up to them, they did everything in their power to remediate the problem and apply for those permits that were needed.
So they just didn't know they needed to obtain a building permit?
They were not aware that they didn't know that building permits were required. Again, this was their first home, so they were just new to all this stuff and didn't really know that they had to do that. ¿Algo más que quiera agregar? And I think that's it as far as presenting the case. He's more than willing to comply. He's hoping that that patio, there's something that can be done to leave it where it is. He spent quite a bit of money on it, again, but he will abide by the rules and comply to what he needs to.
Any questions for the applicant? Okay, no questions. Thank you. We'll close the public hearing. There is no opposition, right? So-
No, sir, there is no opposition
So we'll
present.
close the public hearing and discuss.
Should, I was just gonna say that I appreciate, that the applicant has been willing to, like, work with codes and come into compliance. I am definitely sympathetic. We hear a lot of times that people don't know, and we definitely are understanding of that. I think, the hard time I have with this one is that I think about all the other cases, like particularly that man in Inglewood who had all those garages that he just kept building, and then we made him take them up. And I don't like doing that because I know that that's expensive, and I know that people spend a lot of money on this, but I also like trying to be consistent in our decisions. So I'm not saying that maybe a variance isn't required. Like, I'm willing to compromise, and there very well may be a variance here. I just don't know if it's 18 feet on the rear setback. I can get more in line with the side one, but the rear one just seems like a lot, and I don't know why. So that's it. I've turned mine on.
That's better. I agree. I mean, the thing honestly that this brings for me more than anything is that, you know, it seems like we do get sort of single homeowners that don't know sort of what they're supposed to do, and maybe that's something our council members could be wise to go take to their districts and explain sort of some nuts and bolts of the processes to help simplify and clarify for folks. You know, the one thing here, and I feel like this is always the case, at least for my consideration on these, is that corner lots are really like weird and tough when it comes to how the setbacks work in the context of like what you're putting in. You know, logically, just looking at this lot, it's kind of the most sensible place for a carport. But, you know, the bigger, and frankly, you know, there probably would have been a case for a hardship here. I think that my concern is I'm just like not really seeing exactly kind of what it is in this context. Maybe I'm just having a hard time articulating it.
In this case, I'm not seeing the hardship, and I don't think, you know, I didn't know is a hardship. I mean, we're seeing on this property, you know, multiple additions being made, and, you know, member Davis did point out how we looked at prior cases where people have continued to add and add and add. You know, this seems like one of those cases where there have been continuous additions made, and, you know, the site is being overbuilt, essentially.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the case, because I mean, and also just looking at this more, I mean, theoretically, there's potential for a carport, and that would comply in that area behind the house on the, I guess, is that the southeast corner of it. So, I mean, I am sympathetic. I think that it's probably incumbent upon some organization other than us to help simplify and educate about the process of complying with codes and obtaining proper permits. But, yeah.
I'll make a motion that we deny the application. I agree with everybody. I don't think there's a hardship here. I don't see one at all. It's unfortunate, but there is no hardship. And so I'll make a motion we deny the application.
A second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay.
Okay, the case has been denied on a vote of 5-0. Mrs. Hernandez, if you would get with our office beginning on Monday, we'll talk about alternative solutions that will comply with the code and walk you through those types of steps going forward. Thank you all at the table. Okay, Mr. Chairman, our next case today is case 2025 Mr. Asim Chandri is the appellant, U.S. Healthcare Associates, owners of the property at 372 Glen Rose Avenue.
What number are we on?
This is case 15.
15, okay.
Yes, sir. And let's see here. I'll get those slides right up for you here. Are the applicants present for this case? Applicants are not present for this case, Mr. Chairman. With that, if we'll heal this to the end of the docket, we'll consult rules. I think it is going to be dismissed for lack of prosecution. But we'll skip through that and go straight to the
One comment I'll note. The applicant's address is listed as Vaux Lane, which is off of Kirkwood Avenue. As somebody who lives over there, the flooding was very, very, very intense. I would, if possible, I don't know if it's possible for us to consider a deferral to push the case to just give the applicant an opportunity to appear, but or if we can deny it with leave to reset it. But
at least in my mind, it seems if that's our issue, and I don't know one way there, but we don't, as codes, don't have any opposition to postponing a meeting, but let's let your legal counsel
Well,
talk.
so under the rules, like 4C, when they've failed to appear, that says the board shall dismiss the application for lack of prosecution.
okay,
You can make, I believe, let's see.
that's under our rules.
It is.
We can move to suspend the rule.
You can.
You could. If you'd like to, if you believe there's like
You wanna-
some
you wanna hear
reason,
the
some
next
kind
case
of
to see if by chance
weather
it'll show
emergency.
up.
Yeah, that's fine. We can do that.
I'm for it. I think it's a good idea.
And you can make exceptions under Rule 17B. The board may from time to time make an exception in these rules for extraordinary cases, setting out the reasons therefore.
So I think what we'll do is see if they show up.
Yeah.
We'll get them, maybe if they're a few more minutes late, we can come back to it at the very end.
Sure.
Okay, then we'll address that at the end. Okay, our third case today is at the end of today's agenda. It's case 2025-34. Mr. Sean Burrows, the appellant, Bahin Harimi, and Brett Inglis, the owners of the property located at 3602 Meadow Drive, requesting a variance from the height requirements in the RS20 district. And the applicant has constructed a detached pool house, which I'll need to explain in more detail to you all. There may have been some confusion in the community that the home is not at issue on this property. Some of the emails I believe this board received discussed the home itself, that it was too tall, or the home is in compliance with the code. The issue is the detached pool house, and I'll show you photographs here in just a minute, kind of explain what happened. But the variance before us deals with this structure, which is the pool house. And in this zone district, they are zoned RS20. They are not in the UZO. They are outside the urban zoning overlay. So the maximum height of the building should have been 16 feet as measured from peak to grade. In instances where we have structures either with retaining walls or grade changes, we take an average of each of the grades at the four corners of the building, average that grade into what's called an average grade plane, and I've listed it as the AGP on this. So average grade plane would be somewhere about where my cursor is there, and we would measure 16 feet from that point to the peak of the residence. My zoning examiners reviewed this plan and reviewed the building under the standards for the urban zoning overlay and not for the rest of the county. So my examiner reviewed these drawings, showed that they did comply with 16 feet as measured to the eave of the building from the average grade plane. We issued the permits back in July of 2024 for this structure. My examiner just flat out made a mistake and should have applied the height from 16 feet to the peak to the average grade plane, not to apply the urban zoning overlay standards, which don't affect this property. The urban zoning overlay is close, but not quite to this parcel. So, so just admit that I just wanted to admit publicly that our office made a mistake here and applied the wrong standard. The contractor went out and built, what you see here, and in the photographs I'll show you a view from the street. This is looking along Meadow. Again, the house itself, I'm just showing you just a street view. The house itself is fine. This is the structure at issue. And as you saw in the photographs and the elevations, the maximum height of this structure should be 16 feet from the average grade plane to the peak, which would be up here. And my examiner approved it at 16 feet to the eave, which would be right in here. So this height, I'll let the contractor or the appellant's representative tell us the actual total height of the structure so as to determine what the amount of variance there. My drawings, I just wasn't able to pick it up on the copies I had.
So Joey, is there opposition today?
Are there any parties present opposed to case, lost my case number, 34 present? No, Ann, there are no opposition present. With that, I'll turn it over to you, Ms. Lamb. You'll have 5 minutes to present your case. Time over here.
Thank you. If you would give me a heads up at about 45 seconds if I'm running up to that, because I do have a neighbor here who came out with her children to speak in support, so I want to make sure I give her an opportunity to speak. Thank you, board members, for hearing us today. My name is Emily Lamb. I'm with the Winstead Law Firm located at 1221 Broadway, here on behalf of the property owners who are behind me with their son whose school was canceled because of the weather. As Mr. Hargis said, this is unfortunate yet significant error that was made by codes. We all recognize that people make mistakes. Zoning examiners are human, but this is a pretty significant error that was made to my client's detriment. They're not here to plead ignorance. They're not here to say, they followed codes' advice. They submitted plans, spoke to the zoning examiner about those plans, revised the plans to some extent, resubmitted. The plans were then approved in July. So we're here to ask essentially for y'all to allow us to build, now 9 months in, allow us to build what was approved by codes. We are, it's hard to give an exact amount because the budget is the house and the pool house, but we're essentially estimated $250,000 in on this pool house when we were stopped. As you'll see, I submitted some documents that show 12 letters of support from neighbors. They also show renderings, and the last picture especially I think will be beneficial for you because it shows you that the pool house is still significantly shorter than a home. So we're not taller than the home. It was just a mistake by the zoning examiner, applied a UZO standard that it should not have been when he should have applied the non-UZO standard. I think it's worth pointing out that we could have built, there are underlying lot lines here. We could have built 6 single-family homes, tall, skinny homes. The project here is the effort of our property owners to build a home that they can enjoy, as well as a pool house that they can enjoy. They're not, and that, quite frankly, to the benefit of the neighborhood. I don't think anybody in the neighborhood would want 6 single-family homes here. That's going to increase traffic. It's not necessarily going to match the context of the neighborhood if we had done that. So the family is looking to build a home that they can enjoy, that their kids can enjoy, that will also benefit the neighborhood. Both of my clients are property owners. That's it. I pass it around. Both of my property owners are doctors, and they're seeking to move a little closer to the hospitals they serve. They both one takes call every 3rd night and one takes call every 4th night. So they're very busy and they're seeking to be closer to the hospitals that they serve. One of them is a native Nashvilleian, so again, she's very eager to do what's right for the neighborhood and what's best for the neighborhood, which is how we came up with this plan for a single-family home with a pool house instead of the 6 underlying lots. I spoke to the council member. She is very sympathetic to our case. She said under the circumstances and given under the circumstances, she didn't, and because there was some neighborhood opposition, she did not feel like she could come out in full overt support of this, but she's very sympathetic, does not have any opposition to it, and defers to the board members on this. I also think it's important to point out the timeline to appeal is 30 days after the issuance of a permit. So although this isn't an appeal of the permit, I think it's worth noting that there's an equity argument here that if it were appeal, it would be barred by the 30-day time limit. We're 9 months in before we were started. We are coming up on finishing this property before we were stopped. So I think there's an equity argument, not only in terms of the value that we have invested in reliance on the government, but also the timeline that that this was brought to our attention, that the mistake to our detriment was made. To the extent there's a hardship here, there's a very large tree here that's well established, it's very old. We could have just built a second home. As I said, there were underlying lot lines. We could have just built a second home, could have called it a pool house, but could have built what qualified as a second home, but it would have destroyed that tree. We would have had to remove the tree. We wanted to preserve the tree, again, for our benefit and for the neighborhood. So we scooted the structure over closer to the lot line, still within the setback. But that's, as a result of that necessitated that it be called that it be an accessory structure, which is where the height comes in. So there's the tree that we're trying to work around. I think I'm running out of time. Thank you. I saw that. So I'm going to call Ms. Hickok up here. She would like to speak in support of this as well. She's one of our neighbors.
Yes. Hi, I live at 3120 Forest Park Avenue. So my house runs.
Can you state your name and address?
My name is Andrea Hickok.
I'm sorry.
My name's Andrea Hickok. And I live at 3120 Forest Park Avenue. So my street runs perpendicular to Meadow. I'm 3 houses down from the new build, and I just wanted to support this. It's a beautiful house. It adds to our property value. There's a lovely family moving in, so there's a lot of neighbors that are supporting this. Also, the structure's already built, so we have no opposition at all to it.
If there are any questions from the board members, I'm happy to answer those.
Questions? Anybody? Okay, no questions. All right, we'll close it. There is no opposition, correct?
There's none present,
No
sir.
opposition. Okay, we'll close the public hearing and discuss.
It's just not my day with these microphones. I mean, I generally don't have any very firm sort of guiding principles about these things, but when code says blesses a plan and someone has complied with it and there is a stamp of approval that this submission complies with the code, I know prevailing in a equitable, estoppel, detrimental reliance grounds against government, there's a heightened standard, but I mean, I think that this would even meet that heightened standard. And so I'm inclined to approve this under the sort of unique circumstances and exceptional hardship grounds.
Oh, I am too, and I think there's the exceptional circumstances, but also feel like when codes has made a mistake like this, if the applicant identifies anything that's a potential hardship, especially when nobody is here to contest that,
Yeah.
I think that's good enough for me, so that's where I am on it.
I'd like to add, because of the quiet support, so no injury to the existing surrounding neighborhood.
I'll make a motion that we approve the variance as requested for the as-built structure based upon a demonstration of unique and exceptional circumstance.
Okay, is there a second on that?
I second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that passes.
Thank you very much.
Case
stay
passes
safe
on a
in the
vote
weather.
of 5-0, and so we'll circle back now.
There's some people that just walked in, so I don't know if they're the folks here for they're not, okay. They're with y'all, okay. All right, so we need to come back to it.
Yes, sir. We'll circle back, and as mentioned, Mr. Chandri's case on case 15, and as Ms. Mickelson pointed out, you are able to amend your rules for exceptional circumstances. So if you believe this is one as to defer his case 1 meeting due to the events of the last 24 hours, I'll just need that in the form of a motion.
Yeah, I'd make a motion that we defer case number 2025-15 to the next meeting based upon the circumstances, that we suspend the rules to defer that case based upon the circumstances involving exceptional flooding in Nashville.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor? That passes, so that case is deferred one meeting.
Okay, members, and then with that, I'll reach out to the appellant, remind him that we'll hear him. And if you're fine, I'll put it at front of the agenda. That I've passed along to you, Ann has provided you a copy of the red lines, and obviously she's got any questions, but I also provided you a copy of, hey, if you accept these changes, here's what it looks like, which is about the extent of my knowledge of Microsoft Word.
So basically, the edits here were based on my notes from your discussion at the last meeting, and there might be something that I didn't completely catch. So please go through and read this carefully and make sure that I captured all of your comments. And I'm trying to think if there are a couple, there might be, yes, I think there are just a couple of marginal comments here as well. And then there's, I think like 4 of you supplied me with, written versions of your comments, and I tried to incorporate those. And so in certain cases, you might see edits here that were not necessarily made by the group, but they came from one of you. So if you see something here that you don't agree with, please give me that feedback and just give that to me directly. Don't copy everybody else. And I could make any edits and redistribute this, and you can discuss it at your next meeting.
Yeah, I will
So
place
thanks
it.
everyone for your feedback.
Thanks, sorry, Ann. I'll place this on our agenda for the next meeting for consideration, and if you're comfortable with what you see, approval of the new rules. So with that, this board stands adjourned for the day. Thank you. Y'all be careful the next 2 days. So we got more of this mess coming.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.